Hello everybody and welcome back to Saranac After Dark. I'm your host Mahaley, and today I will be interviewing 3 of the most famous artists from the Renaissance. Before we begin, here's a little background knowledge. The Renaissance was the rebirth of many different things, art being a major one. In the height of the medieval ages, artists often used idealized and symbolic representations of religious themes. In the Renaissance, artists brought back Greek and Roman subjects, focusing on nature and the human personality. Now, you may be wondering, how did art become so popular again? During the Renaissance, artists worked for whoever offered them the highest price. In Florence, the Medici, a very wealthy and powerful family, supported the arts by giving huge sums of money to artists, and amongst them, musicians, scholars, many more. Among the Medici were the Sforza family, who also supported the arts by giving them money, etc., and many other families. With the rise of art, the style changed. Artists wanted to paint the natural world as realistically as possible. Through this, they studied perspective, giving three-dimensional life to a flat surface. They also explored with different styles of color, texture, and shape. Now, let's meet the experts of these new styles. Please welcome Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael. No, not the Ninja Turtles. All right, Leo, let's start with you. It's amazing to have you here. Could you please give us a little bit of your story?
Yes, I can. I was born in Vinci, Italy on April 15th, 1452, and I grew up living in my father's home. When I was 15, my father made me an apprentice of Andrea del Verrocchio workshop in Florence. I showed off my talent while I was working as an apprentice, and my art became quite popular. Around 1482, I entered the service of the Duke of Milan, and I spent 17 years living there. While I was there, I designed numerous things, not just paintings, but also sculptures, weapons, buildings, and machinery. During these 17 years of my life, I created some of my best pieces, including The Last Supper. In about 1503, I began working on a piece that I'm sure you guys have heard about called the Mona Lisa.
That's incredible. Could you please tell me more about your technique and style?
Yes, obviously I can. For my paintings, I typically change it up a lot, and before I discovered canvas boards, I used surfaces such as wet plaster and dry stone wall. I paint with handmade oils made from ground pigments, and when creating my art, I start with using colors like brown and gray to make a detailed underpainting. I go layer by layer when painting, adding colors each time and creating a picture. I refuse to use bright colors when I create my art, so I strictly stick to earthy and neutral colors, and my work always turns out amazing.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Leo. You already know everybody loves your work. All right, on to you, Raphael. Please tell me your story.
I was born in Urbino with my mother, Magia di Battista Carla, and Giovanni Santi, who sadly both passed away when I was young. My father was a court painter, which I believe sparked my interest in art. I began to train there and saw such inspiring pieces like Mantega, Utello, and Piero della Francesca from my youth. I believe it was 1508 when I began to work in Florence, Italy. People started to recognize me as an artist and even gave me the name Painter of Madonnas. My most famous piece is the School of Athens, and I believe it perfectly captures what the Renaissance is all about.
Awesome. You seem like such a humble and down-to-earth guy. What are the secrets to your technique that produces such beautiful paintings?
Thank you. I believe the secrets to my technique was the time period I was in. My works were typically influenced by the era I was living in. For example, in the early years, my art style was fairly similar to my teacher, Perugino. Some would say our works were identical or hard to differentiate, and I would agree. Perugino was my biggest inspiration for me. During my time in Florence, I was influenced by the local artists. I transitioned from grace and elegant works to more bold items. When in Rome, I tried ink, rougher styles, and oil techniques. In this era, I took what I had learned from my previous years and brought a mix of it to the Roman culture of artworks.
Your contributions to the art world clearly had an impact. Thank you so much for your time, Raphael. And next up, the talented pioneer of sculpture, Michelangelo. Please tell me how you got to where you are now.
I appreciate your warm welcome. I was born into a family that for several generations belonged to a minor nobility in France on March 6, 1475. By the time I was born, the nobility had lost its patrimony and status. My father worked as the administrator of a small dependent town of Caprice at the time of when I was born. At 13, I was apprenticed by Domenico Ghirlandaio for a 3-year term in Florence, but after 1 year I left due to having nothing left to learn. When the Medici were overthrown in 1494, I had left Florence before the end of the political turmoil. In 1499, I created the Pieta sculpture, which had made me gain significant recognition as a master sculptor.
Wow, that is so interesting. Could you describe your technique?
Certainly. I worked with many different art forms. Although I primarily considered myself a sculptor, I created some of the greatest fresco painting and architecture this world has ever seen. Some of those works include the Sistine Chapel ceiling, the creation of Adam, and the Bacchus sculpture. Creating my sculptures, I used my advanced knowledge of the human body specifically to create my nude sculptures. I grasped the concept for light and shadow and figured out that they could represent volume and shape in both sculptures and a painting. Unlike Da Vinci, I was able to produce figures that twisted around and complemented each other's form.
Thank you so much, Michelangelo, and thank you all of you. It has been an honor to have you on my show. Good night, everybody.